Welcome back to another episode of Growth Vertical, everyone. Today we have a special guest, Rishabh Bhandari, also known as Rish, founder and CEO at Content Beta, which is a video design audio studio that's helped loads of B2B software companies create engaging content so that they can continue to grow the startups in a very
Yeah,
scalable manner, of course, but a more impactful manner. So today we're going to be talking about how Rish went from near bankruptcy to a 75K MRR business. So thank you for coming onto this call, Rish. It's great to have you, and for an interesting topic too. This is pretty exciting actually. When I was reading a bit about what you've done, and also with the back and forth we had on the email, it was pretty
thanks, Neil. I'm
interesting to
excited. I'm
see.
excited.
Yeah, how I was going to say before we get into it, sort of thing, Rish. It'd be great to have you here, like talk a bit about yourself, right? So where did it all start with content beta? What was your motivation?
Great. So before Content Beta, I used to run a training and an online learning and classroom training company where we train large corporates like PwC, EY on data analytics and visualization. And during 2019, COVID happened. Suddenly, organizations started spending less on people. They were trying to save more. And in some or the other way, my training business was going down the drain, right? Because if nobody's investing, then who'll pay me money to train their teams? So that's how we stumbled upon the idea. So we were creating content around software products like Power BI, Tableau, and we thought these are like big giants. Who's helping the SMB software companies or B2B companies? And on the side, we always used to run a YouTube channel. We have 300K subscribers, and somehow we thought that we know how to make sure your audience could complete watching the video, right? So that was our knack we had developed. We thought, why don't we take this to SMB and see if we can bring some value on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how Content Beta started. We started first helping SMB software companies in creating content for product enablement, which was the problem which we thought is great. And then suddenly product marketing spoke to us, founders spoke to us. Hey, can you help us with the same kind of content for marketing campaigns, for demand gen campaigns, for YouTube short form videos? So there we are. So then we expanded our suite of services to cater to those audiences too. But now I think 60-70% is more marketing and remaining is customer enablement kind of content we produce.
Nice. How is there anything exciting that you're working on at the minute, like that's changed from that, or is it pretty much the innovation side of how we can create more engaging content for these businesses for that particular
I
facet?
think I think what I've been noticing over the last couple of years, and probably it must be happening in the past, but that got my attention, is the attention span of normal people is going smaller and smaller. People find it difficult to watch like a hour-long webinar or really long-form content or 10-pager blog, right? Long-form blogs. And with the age of TikTok and Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts, I think they're promoting that kind of content. And It's great for creator economy today. A lot of individual creators have stepped in, and I think B2B brands are now trying to get in. And right away, just focusing on how can we help B2B brands set short form content. Suddenly, your content piece, when you upload it, seen by 10,000 people, that's like a big deal, right?
Yeah.
If you're looking for brand awareness. So we're working on a solution how we can help more of B2B tech brands win on their short form content game.
Nice. It seems like there's a major shift in the B2B world, especially. I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's a ton of content being produced, one, but the type of content isn't. I think one of the problems is that it almost seems copycat like. One company's doing it, so another company might follow. I don't know if you've noticed this trend, right?
Right.
So they'll see like a video, they'll try and recreate it in their own way with their own USPs in the video, and then that's it, right? They expect it to do well. And then next thing you know, it probably doesn't do as well because it either doesn't engage the audience, one, but two, it doesn't have any personality to it, doesn't showcase any brand like core messaging within the video facets or the content pieces. I don't know if you've seen the same thing, but I think one platform that we can see it on all the time is LinkedIn, right? So there's always like a rinse and repeat of some content. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think a lot of it is the written content is because of ChatGPT, right? I mean, when you throw something at AI, it has limited database, and probably it will share similar output to different people with slightly different questions.
Mm,
And one of the reason of you see repeated text content everywhere, and probably not just LinkedIn but even blogs and guides or something like that. So that's part one. And you're right, like even in other non-text kind of creative kind of content, which is design and video, i think I think it's just like fashion, right? So you got to innovate, not in terms of just your product and messaging, but even how you communicate visually.
yeah,
Like traditionally, people used to do this explainer video where there were like lots of characters. You'll see trees and mountains, and it's like a sage who's meditating, and suddenly the productivity improves after he started using a CRM.
yeah,
Um, today people don't like that. Today people want to see something real, right? It's okay to compromise on quality, just like TikTok, right? It's people are not expecting like a very high HD, I mean, I wouldn't say a resolution, but very high finished content, quality of content. They prefer more real stuff, right? So they want to see real people, they want to see real product, as opposed to your animations or stock videos or things like that.
yeah.
So I think there's a shift. People want to see something which is actual, and probably this chat gpt is trying to mess up with people who use it.
I think ChatGPT is an interesting conversation. It comes up, well, it obviously comes up a lot these days. Um, it's great supplement as a support, right? Maybe to create initial ideas, or maybe to, I don't know, get your base structure ready for something. But I don't think it's a like a godsend for producing the content itself in terms of you here's some unique content. I think that's where we tend to
Totally.
water down or rinse and repeat that content. And if anything, it's going to harm a business, isn't it? More than grow the business. So I think that's a big
Totally.
thing. And yeah, what were you going to say? Sorry.
So I think, yeah, so ChatGPT, I think, yeah, the rinse and repeat thing. I think if everybody's content looks the same, then probably something is wrong with the content, right? I mean, then how do you stand out? How do you differentiate? Because content was supposed to be a differentiator. I mean, traditionally, most tech companies, the product was a differentiator. And I'm not saying product is less important today, but given that everybody copies each other's features, and then they more or less in a quarter or 6 months they catch up, right? They play this catch up game. So I think content and marketing is going to be the broad differentiator. But yeah, in ChatGPT, I think I mean, internally we all of us use ChatGPT internally, and it's a great intern, right? You give them like great prompts, and they give you good results. But yes, your eyes still need to go through that. You can't just assume that ChatGPT that will do the work for you. It might help you in some ways.
Yeah, I agree. And it's having those prompts and those, let's say, those requirements set up on the back end for you and your processes that make it a little bit more efficient, the content production process. So I think that's how we can use ChatGPT. And we try and stress that all the time. Can't even probably my own, right? There might be an idea that we use to, let's say, create a LinkedIn post. But for me, it's like, hey, I've done 500 things today. I don't have any brain
Mhm.
capacity to think of the idea. Could you give me an idea that's remotely linked to what I want to talk about? And then it'll jog my memory, right? And you can start writing things out based on that. But yeah, I think let's get into like the juicy part as well, right? So we'll obviously talk a bit about how how to actually progress with sort of engaging content, how to produce that to grow businesses. But what would be interesting is knowing the story behind how you grew your business, and that'll give you people a bit of insight as well into how you actually done it, what was the issue, and why you even did it in the first place. So yeah, how did you, Rish, grow your business to 75K MRR from bankruptcy?
So so probably there are two main channels, right, which we had picked up. One was communities, like there are tons of communities on Slack, on Facebook, on Reddit, and lots of people were active. So we went to, let's say, community of marketers, and we would ask a question, and people would answer, and it's not just one or two. Probably there are like 50 answers. Right? Sometimes we'll say, hey, we'll do a test project just to create like a proof of concept. Anybody interested? I mean, no strings attached, and we'll receive like tons of requests, probably because it's free. But it served our purpose initially because we were trying to create samples around it, and we were trying to, more importantly, trying to learn what problems they were trying to solve. And that's our number one space to a identify a problem, b test messaging. The second way of testing messaging was through cold emails. And I'm a big fan of cold emails, cold outreach. I mean, not cold calls per se, but at least cold LinkedIn and cold emails. Um, it's mostly about copywriting. I mean, traditionally you would see a lot of, if you just open your spam box, you'll see a lot of emails saying that, hey, how are you, and then we can help you in XYZ. And probably that's a lot annoying. So we've figured out how do you at least make this experience less annoying. It's still unsolicited, but how do you make that experience pleasant, that at least if they don't need it, they tell you no. So I think uh, we wrote great copies, personalize it, and probably sent like at scale. I have a 4 people SDR team today. And that really helped us. So identifying the problem from communities and using that messaging on cold emails. And then I think it was more about how you structure this. So probably for us, they would normally come on a discovery call, and then if they found it was a good fit, they would probably practice with the conversation, do a test project or something in the start, and then subscribe to our monthly plan. um, initially, couple of years when you are young, you don't have a lot of logos on your website, and what you could basically play is the kind of work you do, and probably the kind of service you could provide, right? Because that's the only differentiator. Otherwise, I'm not going to say that I can do better video or creative work than the best videographer in the world. In fact, we do the opposite of that. We say that we don't create the best design or video creative, but we could balance quality with consistency with cost efficiency.
Right.
And that's what the problem is, right? I mean, typically agencies would do creative work, and they would turn around things in 2 and 3 months. We could turn around things in 3 to 4 days. And in marketing, things move very fast, right? If I have a plan something for 2 weeks from now, that I can't get an asset 2 months from now. In that way, I'm going to derail my entire campaign, and probably, I don't know, nothing might work out. Because we found out the need of marketing was to get something right now, as opposed to getting 2 or 3 months from now. And that's the problem. We're trying to say that, hey, how can we balance quality with cost efficiency, and consistency.
Mhm.
And after, I think, so we started this in 2019 end or 2020 start. And after a couple of years, referrals started clicking in, and that helped us the most.
Nice. So, if I'm just to correct me if I'm wrong. So with the situation when you guys went about testing your particular offer, I would say, of
Mm.
your services, you were always in that position of, hey, we lack the credibility because we just don't have the logos just right now on our website. So you have to take a different approach. I'm actually going revisiting the whole cold email part. I'm actually an advocate that you should be doing it, especially in the B2B space. It's actually one of the ways we communicate, right? It's not dead. It
Yeah.
it still works. There's a lot of it, yes, of course. So the volumes increased of unsolicited emails, but the approach is what sets you apart, right? So testing messaging, I usually say, hey, well, if you really need to understand if your target audience needs your product, one, or would be actually would find this useful, why don't you ask them directly? There's nothing wrong with that. You can do it on LinkedIn, you can do it on email, right? It's the same thing. um, Rather than this black box where you think, okay, I'm going to try and find my answers from somewhere, but we don't know where. And so you just say, well, you can get the access to the audience. You just need to be able to ask the question. So that's pretty interesting. And I think going from having a super unique offer, like producing content, cutting down content production from, let's say, 3 months to 3 days, 3 4 days, that's, or even 3 weeks to 3 4 days, is a big jump as well. that's uh
Yeah.
that's a massive offer. So what you have there obviously is a gem. How how did you go about scaling that to get to that MRR point that you were at?
So So I think we became better and better at cold email. So when we started making initial revenues, we ramped up our ops. And initially,
Yeah.
for the ops side, we tried to get a lot of generalists, right? So it's not that only one particular kind. Initially, we started with just videos, but different kinds of videos. And we got journalists who could do different kinds of videos and not just like just say animated videos or like a live action kind of videos. So that's the first bit of money just to ramp up our existing ops team so that if there is a demand, we can service that demand. The second step which we did was we um, we invested a lot in cold email and SEO, right? Um, we started publishing like initially in the initial days 4 to 5 blogs a week, and these were good blogs. I mean, not just like listicles where you just list something like how you see on ChatGPT today. Um, it takes some time. Probably for us, the first lead from the day we started investing in SEO was 8 or 9 months.
Yeah.
It takes some time and you need patience, but it's a great channel. If you are, especially if you're targeting SMB, I wouldn't say this is the best fit for all of them, but if you're targeting SMB market, they are active on their phones. They'll try searching. That's a great channel. We also ramped up our, I mean, learned how to write better emails, and we could do things at scale. For instance, previously we used to write like email standalone where we used to personalize based on the person, their role, their company, etc. And then we figure out, hey, how can we templatize part of it so that it doesn't look that, hey, this is copy pasted from like a bulk 10,000 email kind of campaign. It's meant for me. And it's basically to strike a conversation, right? I mean, our emails, we rarely say that, hey, let's get on a call. Let's
Hmm.
get on a call is never our goal for cold email. Our goal email is just for that person to respond, right? So just to have a conversation, because let's get on a call can be, I mean, we believe that get on a call will only work if that person is talking to me. Um, so so that's how we improved our game. We played well in cold email, and we invested a lot in SEO. We still don't put a lot of money on ads, because we don't know how to play that game. I mean, we just started with ads from last 6 months, and we mostly spend the money on remarketing as of today. But I think these two channels are really high ROI. Just invest early in your journey, and you'll soon start seeing the benefits.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good advice, especially on the fact that you have to wait about 8 to 9 months. I think a lot of people think, hey, well, SEO, we know it's a high impact channel, but guess what? It's not very quick, right? So you have to invest the time up front to do it. And I think one thing to mention as well is that you've mentioned is the that it's not fit for all businesses. So for enterprise businesses, they act a certain way when they're buying a new piece of software, let's say, or even if it's so when you go to SMB, it's a much easier way of dealing with the traffic because there is actual traffic on those platforms. Their general behavior includes going onto a search engine, maybe finding a few answers, and then going through that user journey all the way up until the website to then book a call. Um, so I think it's important that note there that people should really think about. So that we're in the space of, let's say, local businesses, SMBs, and enterprise businesses. Every business out there is almost trying to become this media brand, right? Which you've probably heard of. And there's also a layer of activity that we never see. So, like in the Slack channels, for example, we see a layer of activity in Slack channels that we can never really listen to as marketers. So, you have to find other ways of doing it. I think Chris Walker from Refine Labs sort of he mentions this, right? This whole dark social thing that we're in a period of where we can do some dark social work. Where, let's say, me as a marketer, I want to buy a piece of software, but I'll go and ask my community on Slack or something. But guess what? Whoever's tracking me has stopped. They can't track me there, can they? So how do you think startups can sort of deal with that one, but also specifically cut through the noise that where a load of other people are acting like media brands, especially those big tech giants, right? So that they can crush content marketing. What do you think the early stage steps is for a startup?
I think founder led marketing is a great first step. right? So if you have a founder, or it may not be a founder, could even be the marketer,
Hmm.
the head of marketer or head of sales or something. You need to build a personal brand around your to give like a human face to your actual business. And nowadays it's pretty easy to create, right? I mean, you could tell a point of view, or probably you might start with telling a point of view, recording yourself, putting it on social media, and then basis on initial feedback, you could ask your audience, hey, what do you also want to listen to? Or you could even I mean, the way we started looking out for questions on Slack, right? What do people ask for? And we created resources. For example, somebody posted that, hey, um, how do I get started on YouTube video? What kind of content really works? Or if I publish like 20 videos at once, will this help my brand? How does HubSpot do that? And what we did, we went back on our drawing board. We listed down 30 YouTube channels of popular SaaS brands, and we dissected that, hey, what kind of videos, what kind of volumes they are uploading, and what's their call to action, how is the description framed. And we did that for 30 SaaS companies for almost a lot of videos. And then we started drawing patterns that, hey, uh, this is path one, right? You could do customer video kind of content, and you could link it to your sign up page. That's part one. The second part is, hey, you could turn your blogs, like listicle kind of blogs, into videos, and somebody from your team could just speak about it. So that's two. You could get the founder who could just talk through it. So we created a resource, and then we put up that resource everywhere else, and people loved it, right? Because these were not made up questions. These are questions people asked on communities.
Right.
So this has been a good channel for us. If we could create resources, and these resources doesn't have to be fancy. They could be as good as on Notion, or I mean, there are tons of tools which can transform Notion or Airtable formats to a better version.
Yeah.
But just create simple resources and share it with your voice, with your flavor, with your point of view. You can't have a point of view which says that, hey, um, there are pros and cons for each approach. You have to stand for something. So if you have to, when you have to stand for something, you also make somebody an enemy. um
Yeah.
so I think, yeah, you have to pick your own side, put up content which is valuable to your audience. And like you said, dark social is kind of leap of faith. I'm hammering my marketing team to say, how are what why are we doing this initiative? How are we able to measure what we are doing? Are we generating leads? But in the end, we all are clueless. What we could say directionally, that, hey, this is helping us get engagement, right? People are asking us questions. um, but I'm not a, I'm I would admit, I don't know if those people are going to buy my service someday. But if this is engaging and people find it interesting, probably they'll share. Probably I'll improve the top of my funnel. People know more about what is content beat and what other brand does.
Yeah.
So yeah, so to answer your question, it's more like a leap of faith for dark funnel.
Yeah. I agree actually. I was thinking about this the other day, and I think I wrote about this on LinkedIn as well. But it's the whole idea behind word of mouth, right? So it seems like everything we do now, or everything we've done over the last, let's say, 2 decades, right? Um, with marketing has boiled down to some form of word of mouth. So let's go back in the day where there was no digital channels, for example, and we wanted to just
Mm.
produce, like, I don't know, we had maybe basic email, right? Or even newspapers and things like that. At one point, you make your efforts with the channels and the platforms that are available to you, but in the end, you still couldn't track any of that stuff, right? You don't know when
Yeah.
someone has shared it in a family dinner or in a friends group setting, and guess what, they're both maybe directors of a um, big sort of conglomerate, or whoever you're targeting, right? So, and they share it over a drink or two, so you don't know who's done what. And most people, and we've actually done this on we've actually run tests for this as well, where you've added a form, and in the form field you say, oh, how did you hear about us, to get that qualitative input of data, and you can analyze that on your forms. That's a great way of just understanding where they could have come from. But in the end, even as humans, we might forget. We might say, oh, we've heard it 3 4 times, but we'll pick the not so last touch point that was the one that referred us to this, right? So then you go and weight it. So it's like, as marketers, how do you actually believe the data? And I think that's, we need to boil it down to the first principle, and that's like, in the end, it's all going to come down to word of mouth, right? It's always going to come down
Yeah.
to that particular activity. And so if you are producing content, you got to hope that when I go into a marketing community and I have a lead gen document I downloaded of how to generate leads in 10 days, when you have I don't know, a budget of $500, um, I should be able to say, okay, let me take this to the other marketers and be like, guys, I generated this many leads with this budget. You should read this guide, and I'll go and send it in my Slack group. But I don't care. I'm just helping out the other marketers, and the other marketers are just going to see it. They might have a indirect connection to your product or service and come to you and say, hey, can you do this for us, because we just don't have the time to do it, right? So I think that we're in that sort of lifeline right now, because we have an increase lifestyle right now where we've increased the number of channels we have on the market, but we don't have an increased number of, let's say, eyes or magnifying glasses or torches to shine a light on what's going well. So it's important to consider that. Um, I think one thing I wanted to ask was around YouTube. Right now, there's probably an age-old question that you probably received: that does YouTube work for B2B? Right, no matter the industry, how would you propose that content gets the recognition it deserves, or the views it deserves, um, or even in the engagement, I should say, or the consumption, when you're a business, because you know that something like YouTube would favor a individual creator opposed to a business account, depending on the audience sizes, right? So some, I guess, to put it quite clearly, some companies, B2B SaaS particular companies, they might think, hey, well, YouTube may not be so great because our audience did. I don't see our audience using YouTube, or I don't see many of our people like on that platform. How would you frame that answer? Do you think there's always opportunity on that platform?
Yeah, I think my counter question to anybody who asks that, hey, is YouTube going to help me if I'm a B2B brand? My counter question is, are you investing in written blogs? If yes, then I think YouTube is equally valuable to you. If you look at Google's search algorithm, and if you search on any term, the first three results are the YouTube videos, and then the organic results start. I mean, now with this new Bard search coming in the search console, I think the videos might go second, but the first is GPT answer, and the second probably could be videos. But videos normally precede over the the text blogs or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even within videos, the short form videos is now catching up, right? I mean, people people are now searching on YouTube as opposed to Google about their problems, like troubleshooting kind of problems, because they see the answer is absolute, right? So that's my counter question. That, hey, if you're willing to invest in blogs, put money on YouTube. Now the second part of question, now is it how do I humanize it, right? Because I'm not a we are not like a creator, so there are tons of ways to do that. Um, you could first of all have a podcast, have a partner with a creator, right, and try to create a lot of content by interviewing somebody, or
Mm-hmm.
probably putting a webinar on post. That's one way. Second way is getting your customers in. Third way is probably somebody in your team, probably founder or marketer, just speak through um, the the point of view or where the industry is at, something which is an answer to somebody's question. And
Right.
the research for what videos to make is exactly same as what blogs to write. If you're able to figure out what blogs to write, what keywords to focus on, what should you include in the blog, you have what you need for the video. um, it might appear that creating a video is more expensive, but these days with tools like Vidyard and Cappic, which are more browser-based tools, I think it's becoming easier to record video and probably do some basic post-production to make sure it goes live. Of course, you need to spend time and effort in making sure your thumbnail is catchy, you write great description so that the search algorithms captures your video and shows in the top results. So you got to do some bit of hard work, very similar to how you would do work hard on your blogs. Um, but yes, so I think YouTube is an interesting channel, um, and I think more and more. Hey, sorry, did you lose my video?
Yeah, I think we lost you for a second. What would you say? More and more?
Okay, so more and more people are now publishing on YouTube video, on YouTube. And if you say that, hey, I'll invest after 5 years or after 10 years when I think video is more ripe, you will have a tough time to catch up. Imagine you have to start a blog today. It's a great deal to catch up because there are big heavyweights in the market you got to beat. Very similarly, if you don't start working on video today, catching up after 5 years is a big deal. So that's my normal recommendation, that hey, start the YouTube game today, invest today, as opposed to delaying it in the future. If you think that your audience is never going to consume, or do you think about yourself? What do you do in your free time? Do you always read like newspapers or magazines? Don't you ever consume on social media, on Twitter? If the answer is yes, then probably your prospective buyers are also hanging out. I mean, one day I was speaking to somebody saying my audience, my customers don't hang out on TikTok, or they never do Instagram. I mean, we don't put ads on Instagram or TikTok. I said, what do you do when you're not working, or probably you're just waiting for your bus for 5 minutes? Very similarly, your audience is also hanging out. They're not in the right frame of mind to take decisions, but they're probably
Yeah.
hanging out there. And I think playing that game early is more important than later.
Are there any best practices that you think that people should focus on? Like that are there any like sort of solid best practices, even if it's like your top three that people should stick to or something, when starting to create that content?
So for video content, just make sure the most juiciest part of the content is covered in first 20 to 25 seconds. The way algorithm on the YouTube algorithm works, they're most focused on YouTube because they're more like a search engine as opposed to Vimeo or Wistia, which is a hosting platform. Um, the YouTube pushes the video initially. When you publish a video, they push it around, and if you don't get many viewers in the first few hours, they automatically downgrade your content to the lower end of that keywords. And it's very important to make sure that you have a great thumbnail and great catchy first 20 seconds. If you do that, then there is a purpose for that viewer to complete watching the video. That's another metric, right? How do you make sure, I mean, if you're able to make sure that the person who begins watching your video finishes it, the YouTube calls it customer retention, user retention. If you're able to prove higher user retention to YouTube, the algorithm thinks that your content is really valuable, and it will try to push you in the higher and higher results. So I think, yeah, these three things: get the thumbnails right, like the title thumbnail, get the first 20 second right, and make sure there is a good reason for somebody to stick around till the end. You don't want to lose them, because if you start losing them, then you start losing your ranks.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty good. I think one thing is we've been talking about the whole, how to get more customers or get more eyeballs on the actual content, right? From the top of funnel or middle of the funnel. But what about when people sign on? Like, I know that you guys also have focused on creating content from a more post purchase journey or post purchase part of the funnel.
Right.
Where should startups begin with creating content that both educates the existing users that have just signed on, or even the new users that have just come on board?
Sure. I mean, typically for like a free to paid ratio for like SaaS companies is normally 10 to 15%, which means 85% who sign up, they churn out. There might be a couple of reasons: they didn't get enough value, they didn't understand how to use a product, or probably combination of these two things, or probably they find it expensive or something like that. Um, and the number one goal, if I'm a product guy, or even if it's a small company like I found, my number one goal is to how to activate that customer.
Mm.
And the best way is to make sure that customer knows how to use your product. The most common way of educating your customer traditionally has been chat. where somebody could put up question, these days bots, but probably more chat. And the second common way is a help center, like a product documentation.
Right.
Now, these are great. I mean, product docs are great if your audience is a developer, right? Because they always tend to read a lot, but not everybody is a developer, not everybody loves reading. And we focus on more visual content, so it could be how to videos, it could
Yeah.
be like gifs, and it could be as simple as recording a loom video, right? You don't need like an agency or like a big studio to create content. Just get some instructional design basics done and you could record the videos yourself. And I think one of for people who do that, I have seen, I mean, some of our customers I could relate to, they have improved their retention at least by at least double, right? When before the multimedia content and after the multimedia content, basically different people consume content differently, and you got to cater to your audience. Not everybody is a reader, so that's my fundamental. In terms of how to video, there's a different level of getting into excellence, right? The more
Right.
basic way is just record loom video, um, and probably just like a product guy, right? Hey, this is how you use the product. You do click here, click there, click there. Um, these kind of videos were good 5 years ago. Today, the consumer is more aware. They want to learn the why behind what actions you do. They want to have quick wins because the patience is gone. So your piece of content should have these, probably I could say three things. One is humanize, sure face, talk through it. Don't make it look like a click here, click there video. Second, I would say is uh, show your product, and probably show the use case and talk about what are the best practices. If I'm
Hmm.
an email marketing software, my goal is definitely to make sure that you know how to use my email marketing software. But how do I go beyond? I might also want to help my user that, hey, this is how you can improve your open rate if you use these subject lines. Now, mind it, the subject lines, the content you write in subject lines and open rate is not what I care about, right? But if my email marketers who are using my product get higher open rates, they might think that, hey, email marketing is working for me, and probably they might get better results. And by any chance, by any case, they'll continue using my product. So I think the educational content or the enablement content, popularly known as, should always focus on how to make your user win in whatever profession he is. If you're selling a sales CRM, try to focus on how can he become the best salesman. If you're selling an a SEO tool, make him how to become the best in SEO, right? Or best in content. So for create content where you could make your user a better professional, even if it includes stuff outside your product. So that's our 2 cents on how to create product enablement content.
Oh, nice. I think you mentioned a bit about product as well in terms of how to use it. And back in the day, we would produce videos saying to click here. It was almost like a tutorial, right? I think we used to call it. But do you think that there is still a way where we can talk about the product and the features and use for like product and feature launches? And how would you use it as an example? Do you think those are still good though?
Sorry, so your question is what, like a product or a feature demo, something like that?
Yeah, so let's say, for example, you have a new product or feature launch. Would you recommend also
Right.
producing videos for that, where, as part of your arsenal for the documentation, or let's say onboarding new customers? How would you use that, or if you would do that?
I would do for both. I would do for both. So, let's say more on the marketing side, which is where the GTM teams function. If I do a big feature launch or probably a side product of my main product, I would want to go with like a big bang, right? I mean, I would want my audience to know, and my audience include people more than my customers, right? People even who are
Hmm.
my prospects, who are probably on the edge when they were considering to purchase my product. But now that if they know that I have this feature, they might be tilted towards making a decision.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that there's a big, like a lot of huddle around when you do a launch. I'm assuming it's a significant launch. And in the same
Yeah, it
note, I
would
would also
be
say
a
that when
particularly
you
big launch.
create a new
Hold on, I
feature,
think I've
you
lost you.
also have to make sure that your existing customers know how to use it. There are tons of way, and like you could do webinars, you could do videos, and I'm sure lots of companies are doing in the same way. But sometimes the timing mismatch, right? I mean, the product team is pretty fast. Probably the marketing and the product marketing team could support them and create this buzz around the new feature launch, but the communication to customer success or the customer kind of content is slow. And if you create that, if that lag affects in content production, you lose that customer in that 1 month. I mean, you don't know which customer is looking for what. So um, when you go to market with a new feature, I mean, I would say focus on both marketing and product enablement in the same way and in the same timing, so that you could not only get newer customers, you could also help your get help from your existing customers in terms of the retention MRR.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. We've done I've done We've done like webinar campaigns, for example, where you try and launch the video and then make sure that you can reuse the video for, let's say, an on demand version if you need to go back over the features and why they were even produced in the first place. And what we found is that not only do a lot of the existing customers love that sort of webinar because they can ask questions about it live, but they also find that if you were to do that in an on demand format, those people can use those companies can actually reuse it as a lead gen format first one for different parts of the funnel, but also be able to still engage with the existing audience because that's the way it was positioned. um, so that's pretty interesting, I think. Which that kind of brings me to the next question, right? Do you think that video marketing is used as a specific part of the funnel, or do you think we can actually use it across multiple parts of the funnel, like the different stages?
Um, I think it can be used in multiple parts of the funnel, but more and more we see more content around the top of the funnel, which is more brand awareness. And there has been, I mean, some part of people invest in middle, but in the lower part of the funnel, I think nobody invests these days. And obviously the reason is because the person, there is limited, no, if the top of funnel is 100 people, probably there'll be 50 in the middle of the funnel, probably 10 in the lower part of the funnel. So the motivation to create content is less. But it's equally important, right? I mean, you, end of the day, you want conversions. For instance, in top of the funnel, you could do like YouTube content, you could be like doing reels on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts. You could be doing webinars, converting your blogs into videos, which is more value oriented. And the way to measure success of this kind of content is how many people are interested to learn more about you, right? You can't measure that. Hey, how many signups I got, right? Because that, I mean, that you are not, the top of the funnel content doesn't talk about how you are solving that problem. You're talking about different ways about solving that problem, and probably trying to say more educational kind of stuff. The middle of the funnel is more about, so you have to assume that the audience is problem aware or solution aware, one of these two. And once they're in that stage, you got to show the what your product could do, what are the possibilities. And probably you could even mix it with the lower part of the funnel, where you could do more social proof kind of content, right? So if I'm a customer, and I'm evaluating different software products for my sales team's needs, um, I was reading on some LinkedIn post, they spent 32, but Kyle's LinkedIn post, yeah, they spent probably 30 to 35% of time in reading about references and reviews and testimonials. um, and you got to be there when they are researching about it, right? And the best way to be there is to create a lot of content around your customers.
Hmm.
Go to a customer, record that Zoom call, clean it up a bit, and then post it live. You can use that interview to write case studies, you can use that interview to write blogs. You can create those short form videos, Instagram reels, lots of different kind of content. And I think um, the way customer uses the language, it makes it more relatable, right? As marketers, we think about the product in our head, and we think this is how the customers should perceive us. But when you pick up the customer's voice, they people related to that more because they see themselves, hey, I'm in that same shoe where I'm struggling with managing so many files, or doing so many steps to reach to this final destination.
Hmm.
One of our popular advice to customers when they create product demos is insert customer voice, customer shots between this, so that you give that your prospect some confidence that, hey, if this company has solved problem for these 20 guys, it might probably solve the problem for me. So I think, yeah, so middle of the funnel, the way to measure is, there's the right ways, how many signups, or how many demo requests, or how many people who are uh, taking my trial, right? Now, this is more common for tech products where it's more education oriented. When now your customer signs up, what do? You don't give up. You still want to educate them, because you want to retain them for life. So, and the lower the time to value, the higher the chances they'll stick around. Remember, I told you 85% of your users who sign up, they have no clue what you're doing about, and they probably will churn out as soon as they get a chance. So, as tech companies or software companies, our goal is to how to make sure the onboarding time is fast and the time to value is lower than before. So I think these are the broad ways of how to use videos in different stages of funnel. Um, of course, the cost and the duration differ. So probably very in the early, the top of the funnel, your attention span of your audience is much less. So I would create shorter form of content, like 1 minute, 1.5 minute, right? As you go towards the conversion part of the funnel, you have more liberty to increase the duration of these videos, right? So typically, the product demo and the customer testimonial videos which you do are between 2 to 2.5 minutes. I'm not going to say that you have still a lot of time. These are still prospects. Now, the
Yeah.
customers, you have most of their attention span, and you are okay. I'm okay to produce like a 3 to 4 minute video if there is a customer who's watching the piece of content, because I can assume they're more motivated to learn what I do, and they want to get results too. So I think, yeah, so it's inversely proportional to the stage of funnel, the video duration, much lower in the upper end of the funnel, and pretty much a big size in the lower end.
Yeah, I think a company that does this well, not sure if you agree, is HubSpot. So once you've actually gone ahead and
Yeah,
onboarded on their platform, you notice that they have not only a ton of certifications, but they'll be like, hey, do you need this tutorial because you've signed up for this feature? And then so there's a series of videos on how to go from being a novice to absolutely killing it in the HubSpot platform and making the best out of your marketing. So it's very results oriented. I don't know if you've noticed that. So they go from, hey, if you want to make your marketing more efficient, you want to save this much time and money for the business, you can set up these workflows and here's exactly how you do it. And then they walk you through, here's how you set this up, here's how you use this and make most of this. And guess what, other people have done this, right, whilst trying to use that feature. And I think what's interesting is that they also enable some form of collaboration by producing that content, right, and continuously trying to revamp that sort of system. So I think it's pretty, yeah, I think it's very useful. And a lot of people don't see it this way, but the bottom of the funnel content or even post purchase content can actually drive acquisition because there are people that are actually using it and providing a consistent amount of good feedback on those post purchase videos, which will enable other prospects to look at it and say, hey, we actually need to do this, so therefore we can try something similar as these guys. They seem to have got some success out of it and we actually need this as part of our workflow at the minute, so let's try this as well.
totally. And I think HubSpot is a classic example. Like, great, you took that example. It goes much more beyond product enablement. So a lot of people like myself, I'm never a user of HubSpot, but I've taken their courses on marketing, on content marketing, because their goal, of course, they talk about HubSpot in the middle, but their goal is to make me a better marketer. And they would try to bring up the best practices, voice of some experts, or like some of the best posts or best reading material together, like they curate good content, And guess what, if I am publishing on my LinkedIn that hey, I have this HubSpot marketing certification without buying HubSpot, I think it's a great recognition. I mean, it's a great brand value you're creating, because next time when I'm looking for a CRM, or a marketing automation tool, probably I'll look at HubSpot. So I
Yeah.
think, um, and another cool classic way of how software companies are acquiring customers is by creating such assets, right? I mean, you would have seen books written by like Dave Gerhardt. There's a book called Conversational Marketing by David Cancel and Dave Gerhardt. So tons of people. I think
Hmm.
ClickFunnels guy also written a book about how to create great landing pages. And the way they are doing is how to use educational content to acquire customers, and probably at zero CAC, right? Because if you are selling, like you would have seen AHF selling courses on SEO. So you are not only getting a customer, but they're also buying your course. You're basically getting whatever the acquisition amount, may not be the complete acquisition amount, maybe the part of your the money you spend on acquiring that customer, you get back when they take that asset, right? And that's a cool way, right? How do you attract a customer and probably get your CAC back? So I think education is going to stay there, and the more the value you provide to your customer, to your prospect, the higher chances they'll stick around.
Yeah, I agree. I think the fact that you mentioned Ahrefs is perfect because they use YouTube, don't they, as their primary platform to educate users. And to be honest, there has been moments where I've used SEMrush, for example, and I've actually gone and bought the Ahrefs tool, even though I have SEMrush, because guess what? The Ahrefs tutorial was so clear. It'll tell me exactly what I needed to do when I typed in my search query, tell me exactly what I needed to do and how I would do it with their platform. All I thought to myself was, well, for this much money, I'd rather just pay for the Ahrefs platform and do it exactly how it showed me because it seems like something I can do in minutes. So I think there is that whole, hey, first off, you can target those existing customers and make sure they get the most value and retain them. But that's all also refuels the sort of engine for growth. So the acquisition part, because you are getting you're answering the questions, one, showing people how to do it, but also you can see other people, i.e., the existing customers, talking about it in a more positive way. So it becomes really impactful. And I think that's what drives that. We can't control virality, but that's what drives virality organically, right? So that's pretty good. Um, yeah, I think that was a pretty interesting example, Rish. So well done, HubSpot. Well done, Ahrefs, for even doing this and keeping us in the loop. We certainly enjoy it. So um, yeah, I don't know if there's anything I've missed, Rish. I know that we are coming up to the end of time, but is there anything you wanted to talk, like point to the audience? I think one thing I usually ask at the end is well, starting to ask is if there's a tool you are specifically obsessed with right now that people can use as part of their let's say content marketing process, or any tool actually.
So the tool which I'm obsessed with right now is Clay. Clay, I mean, this for more for my cold outreach. So normally the traditional way of cold outreach is getting like bunch of lists, like you buy lists somewhere and probably just spray and pray everywhere, making thinking that hey, somebody would have that problem. But I think the cool way
Yeah.
we found is how do I score my list, and on different parameters. For example, if I'm selling design services, I would want to score high with companies who have no zero designers on their team versus somebody who has 15 designers on their team as a percentage of their total staff. Um, and because of that, and that Clay could do multiple things, like Airtable on steroids, where you could plug in data from LinkedIn, you could get it from your Google search, your even run chat GPT prompts, and you could basically score accounts based on what you think the problem you're solving. It really improves the response rate. Um, it really improves, and it creates less friction, because now you know that if that person doesn't have a designer, um, no marketing teams can run without designing creatives. Probably I could be a good fit. So we started taking cold emails as gun and bullets. If I have limited bullets, where would I want to shoot? I would want to shoot where I would assume that there is a deeper need than just spraying and praying. So yeah, so Clay is my number one uh, trendy tool right now. Well, I'm also a big fan of ChatGPT, so yeah, that's number two.
Nice. Okay, well there you go, everyone. You can use video marketing at multiple parts of the funnel. We've learned that here today, and Rish has done it with his company over and over again for other companies, and still continues to do it for his own. So you know, for existing users or even for those new prospects you want to target, remember you can use video marketing in very creative ways to make sure one, you're having a major impact, but two, you're also engaging enough for the end user to understand exactly what you do or how you can make the best use of your product or service. So it might be one of the most overlooked areas, I think, when it comes to producing content. I think a lot of people are like, let's just try to get acquisition type of content out and that's it. But they don't realize that there's actually a connected benefit from working bottom up or even post purchase to the top of the funnel, and how that can drive that whole acquisition engine you're looking for. So, Rishabh, if people want to connect with you, ask you any questions or anything, where can they do that?
I think I'm reachable on my LinkedIn. I think you could just search for Rish Bhandari on LinkedIn, or you could go to contentbeta.com. Just reach out to Rishabh at contentbeta.com. I'm happy to chat about what plans do you have. If you need some help even in repurposing your existing content, a lot of our customers, they have like tons of content in PDFs and blogs, and they say what part of this is usable. Happy to discuss what process we use internally and how we help other companies.
Yeah, and I'll link it in the description so that for those of you guys who, couldn't remember that, couldn't listen to that, and not jot it down quick enough, the links will be there. But thanks for coming, Rish. It's been amazing and insightful. This is a chat I think a lot of people can definitely take some great value from. So it's been great to have you here, honestly.
My pleasure, Neil. Thank you.
All right, take it easy, everyone. If you guys did like this content, please do like, subscribe, share. And if you have any questions, just do drop it in the comment section below. Otherwise, we'll see you soon. Take it easy.